Rae, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Of course.
I like to start every interview by asking guests, as a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Great question. So, the first thing I remember wanting to be as a kid was an architect. Yeah. And I used to be one of those children who would take a sheet of paper with a ruler. And when we learned in school about like Ionic and Doric and Corinthian columns, I remember drawing little columns and house floor plans and stuff.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I've never
Yeah.
even heard of those things. So I don't think I did that in school.
It's the top of the column. It's like what it looks like at the top. So, yeah.
Very cool.
Uh-huh.
Well, and how do you think that connects to what you do today?
It was a real shame because that was actually what I wanted to do for several years. And then one day in high school, I was struggling with one of my math classes, and my teacher made an offhanded comment about how much math is involved in architecture. And I remember thinking, like, oh, well, then I don't want to be an architect, which is a real shame, first of all, because I think you can definitely do it without. And also, I was actually really, really good at math. So it was just because I was struggling with pre-calculus or something that
Oh,
came up. But yeah.
well, that's interesting how powerful comments like that and
Mhm.
what impact they can have. I had the opposite actually. My high school computer teacher, as a sophomore, said, if you major in accounting, you'll always have a job. And
Mm.
just that one little comment persuaded me to like do accounting classes in high school and then
Okay.
followed that all the way through
Yeah.
until I pivoted. So it's interesting how much impact. Even.
Absolutely.
So tell us
So,
about what you do today, Ray.
sure. What I do today is I am the creative director and co-founder of a business based in Dallas called Leatherology. We are online only, an e-commerce business, and we are all about beautiful leather accessories. And what sets us apart is everything is personalizable, and it's also very accessibly priced because we're direct to consumer.
Hmm.
And I took many pivots to get to this point in my career, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point. But I would say the thing that I never thought going back to architecture is I do a lot of sketching and hand drawing still.
Oh, you
I'm
do.
a huge,
Oh, well,
ruler
and
person.
for those who aren't watching on
Yeah.
YouTube, she just held up a ruler. So you're still
Oh.
using the rulers.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like sometimes people are like, how do you make that look so good? I was like, I used a ruler because if you draw your line straight, it's surprising what you can pull off. So there's a bit of that. Like I have a little bit of I don't know if engineer is the right word because I would never describe myself as that, but a little bit of like that mindset. Because in a way, designing a bag is a lot like architecting something, just on a much, much smaller scale. So I'm still thinking in dimensions, I'm thinking in measurements and like minute details. It's very technical. So
Oh, that's so cool.
yeah.
Well, tell us, you mentioned that there's been a lot of pivots to get
Yes.
to today.
Yeah.
Do you mind walking us through those pivots? What did you end up studying in school? And kind of
Yeah,
walk us through that path to today.
absolutely. So I think it's interesting you made a comment just now about how impactful teachers can be. And so I
Mhm.
had that one teacher, and I mean, he was a great teacher. He wasn't trying to
Sure.
dissuade me
Yeah.
from a career, but like that made me think, oh, I don't want to do architecture. And then a year later, when I forget what point, 10th or 11th grade in high school, I met a teacher who I think really was the first one to make me feel like I was special, that I had like
Hmm.
unique abilities and kind of to believe in me. And I was public school. So getting one-on-one attention and like a teacher really pulling you aside and being like, you can do this is a little more unusual. And that was my debate coach. And his name is Jim Long. And he made me think like, oh, I can do this. And I also did public speaking. So I did this thing called extemporaneous speaking. And that was what he coached me on. And he made me feel like I had real potential. And when you do this is very nerdy, but what you do is you get a topic, you go to these competitions, these meets, you get a topic and you like draw it and you have, I don't remember exactly, but like 6 minutes to prep. So they're all about politics. It's either like domestic politics or foreign politics. And so you create these files that you're like looking through and you're constantly studying up on like world affairs, so to speak. And so this is what I kind of got the bug doing in high school. And the segue here is that I ended up majoring in political science in college.
Hmm.
So it was kind of like how I initially got my feet wet, really learned a little bit about politics because I think it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me till I got to college and really have meaning. And then I was really shaped by a couple of my professors in college, and I decided to pursue political science. And I wanted to, I don't know, make the world a better place. I was do-gooder. So I
Hmm.
worked on Capitol Hill as a summer intern. I was convinced I wanted to write policy, do public policy,
Hmm.
and that was kind of the path that I initially took.
So you
So
weren't thinking, I want to go to law school or.
no, not law school so much. I had this really incredible experience on Capitol Hill after the summer of my freshman year. I interned for Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan. And I feel like I just got like a front row seat at a lot of the things going on. So I caught that bug. And then I interned for several different nonprofits in college. I went to school in New York City. So there was a lot that you could access there. When I graduated, my first job is I took this fellowship as a fellow at a nonprofit in New York, and it was called Common Ground. And they did
Mm.
supportive and affordable housing for low income and special needs populations. And we worked on these projects to get funding to build or convert buildings into supportive housing. So I did that for a year, and then I moved to DC and I worked for the World Bank for 2 years. So that's kind of the
Wow, that
like
is so
public
cool.
affairs poli-sci angle of what I was doing. So
Mm. And what did you do
yeah,
at the World Bank?
I don't know if this program still exists. I was a junior professional associate, which was kind of like a 2 year analyst. And so they recruit kids out of college or grad school, and you essentially get staffed in different areas and you work on it could be policy. So I happened to work in the infrastructure division. So at the time, the bank was structured like a matrix system. So you had regional like vice presidency. So, someone would oversee Africa, Europe, Middle East, et cetera. And then you
Mm.
had like structural or like divisional subject matter. So infrastructure was one, education was another, water and sanitation was part of infrastructure, things like that, kind of like topical. And they would work together on executing projects. So I was in the infrastructure head office. And so essentially, I spent a lot of time pulling together data, running reports, and helping the team that worked there write board presentations about what the
Mm.
infrastructure strategy should be. So, yeah, there were very cool aspects of it, but honestly speaking, I didn't really enjoy it. So
I
that's
hear
when I
you.
ended up doing this whole career pivot.
Ooh, so tell us about that. So you were at the World Bank, which is pretty, it's really, I mean, prestigious, respected organization. It sounds like you weren't
Yeah.
happy doing the work, whatever the work was,
Yeah.
wasn't fulfilling, it sounds like.
So I think the bank does great work, but it is a bureaucracy,
Mm.
as are most government organizations. And when you work on infrastructure, the timeline for impact is very, very long. It could
Mm.
take you years or decades to get funding for a project. And then, like, say somebody wants to build a dam. That is not a 6 month project. That's going to take years. So, almost everything,
Mm.
it was difficult to see fruition.
Mm.
And the bank is this unique organization that sits in DC, but is not technically run by the US. All the board seats are nominated by the different member countries. But it is fundamentally a political organization because each country has to decide how much they want to donate or dedicate to fund the bank. I felt like a lot of my time was spent creating, if you've anyone's ever worked for a corporation, like data to use or writing board papers that they may or may not decide to use as guidance for what they end up doing.
Mm.
So I felt like it was a little bit of a cog in a wheel, and I'm much more of a like roll your sleeves up. I want to see an impact very quickly or
I
more
hear you.
quickly.
I hear
And
you.
that was a challenge even when I worked for that nonprofit on the housing side, because buildings take years to develop. You work on something, but it could be a 10-year arc, and it's challenging. I just
Mm.
wanted to make a difference more quickly. So,
Mm. So you realized this wasn't it.
mhm.
Tell us about that pivot.
Sure. So I was living in DC, which was also a struggle for me because I didn't like DC compared to New York City. So I went to school at
Mm.
Columbia. I loved New York. Manhattan is where, and Brooklyn are where I spent many, many years of my life. DC was a big adjustment. And so I was like trying to take this Chinatown bus back and forth as much as I could on the weekends to see my friends. I missed like the subway access. It was like a lot more comprehensive in New York. But anyhow, I decided to start over and I was really lost because
Mm.
for years I was on this path. Like you study hard, you go to college. You study hard in college, you get your job. Maybe you go to law school, you like do these XXX things. And I basically threw it all out the window. So
Mm.
at the time, I thought I either want to become, I had two interests, nascent interests. One was in cooking and pastry.
Ooh.
Yeah. And the other was in fashion. So it
Mm.
sounds very silly to say now, but I had read a couple of books like Anthony Bourdain's Kitchen Confidential, and
Sure.
there was this
Yeah.
one by Michael Ruhlman, and it talks about like Thomas Keller and per se. And I was like, oh, this sounds fascinating, like this craft. So I quit. Well, I ended my job in DC, which was a 2 year term. I moved back to New York and I literally started over. I got a job at a bakery in Dumbo,
Oh my
Brooklyn.
God.
Very, very humbling, like literally being a barista because it was a really good French pastry chef. And, he said, hey, when you have downtime, I'll train you. It was
Uh,
called Almondine.
Almondine.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I started taking classes in accessories design at FIT, which is the Fashion Institute.
So you
Yeah.
pursued both at the same time, started
Yes.
exploring them to see which one you
Yeah.
might. Oh my
Uh-huh.
God, that's so
So
cool.
I would work my bakery job during the day, and then like when my shift ended at, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 p.m., I would like take the train into the city and I would do evening classes at
Oh my
FIT.
God, how
Yeah.
special to get to do that. And
It
do you
sounds
have,
crazy now. So,
well, no, but a lot of people dream, as a coach and getting to do this podcast and coaching clients that are wanting to do career pivots, people have these thoughts.
Mhm.
And a lot of people don't necessarily act on them. They're like, I dream about fashion, or maybe I dream. They have like
Mhm.
multiple dreams, but a lot of times we get stuck and we don't like
Yeah.
pursue them. So you went and did it. And
Yeah.
that, like you said, must have been humbling because you're Columbia grad,
Yeah.
like working at the World Bank, and then to completely leave that behind must have been really hard.
Yeah, I actually couldn't get a restaurant or bakery job for a while because I would send in my real resume. And I realized I wasn't getting any callbacks. And so I literally like stripped my education. I stripped like all of this stuff off my resume. And that's when I
Mm,
started actually hearing back from people. So
wow.
I was starting over in a place where people didn't care where you went to school and
Mm,
like what kind of degree you had. And they would be like, why would you want this job if they saw what you'd
yeah.
actually studied? So yeah, it was really humbling. And also it wasn't like a hipster type of cafe, where you can like look cute behind the counter. I think I had to wear a hairnet. So you're very, very like anonymized in a situation like that.
Mm.
So you're just like on your feet all day. It was a very, very physically draining job. So
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. I was
Mhm.
a hostess and a waitress
Yeah.
at high school, college, and
Mhm.
so it is a tough physical
Yeah.
work. But
Yeah.
what did you learn about yourself in that job?
Um, I learned I did not want to work in pastry. And so I had to get there. I think my shift started at like 6:50 a.m. and that was horrible for me. I'm not a morning
That's
person.
actually pretty late for a bakery, though.
Yeah, well, I wasn't doing the baking at that time. And so the baker showed up at 4 a.m. And when I found
Okay.
that out, I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work.
Because originally you were thinking maybe one day you'd own a bakery. Is that what you were
I
thinking?
don't
Or
know. I thought maybe I'd go to culinary school. So I had
okay.
toured French Culinary Institute which was in the city. And I don't know. I was
But
just
yeah,
trying to figure it out.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, for sure.
yeah. But I realized that that wasn't what I wanted to do, and that I actually quite liked the accessories and the more fashion side. And so what I ended up doing is I worked this bakery job for 4 or 5 months, and then I quit and I started interning instead at accessories companies while going to school the second semester. And I was finding these internships like in really weird ways. I would go on Craigslist and someone would like want an intern and I worked for some kind of kooky like people out of their apartment type situations. And I'm trying to remember. Oh, and then eventually and I had a girlfriend who was an artist and had a friend from art school who was working as a publicist and then she was repping this brand that was looking for interns. And so then that's how I landed at this company called B&D because they were repped by this PR firm at the time. And I also worked at a dress shop on the side that this publicist owned on the Lower East Side. I just did all these like really random things, but
Mm,
that got my foot in the door. And B&D was probably the third or fourth accessories related internship I had. But they had actually a real business compared to a few of the other places I worked. And what was really cool is they were in the garment district and their office was like in one room and they actually had an atelier in the back. So they
mm.
had a guy in the back who had like a little workshop with like 5 or 6 sewers and they were literally making the products. So it was kind of cool to like physically
So cool.
see all of that happen. And I loved that job. And eventually they hired me, and it was just really cool because I got to make an impact really quickly. And I did everything from production related tasks and management to also they redesigned their website. They relaunched their website, and I got to work with the freelancers to do that. Pretty soon I was working with them to create their lookbooks and like working with photographers to get that stuff executed. So I got to do a little bit of everything, which was really, really awesome. And I was there for, I actually don't know how long, for if it was a couple of years. This is like 20 years ago. So I'm trying to keep
Yeah,
everything
no,
straight.
no, that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, what's standing out to me, Ray, is that you didn't let an ego get in the way of trying to
No.
figure out what you really loved.
Yeah, it was humbling because if you want to go to law school, if you want to be a paralegal, if you want to do, some of these other things, you want to work at McKinsey or consulting, your alma mater matters in what you studied. And when I was starting over in fashion, I didn't go to Parsons. I'd taken a year of classes at FIT, but I wasn't technically a fashion school graduate. So just having gone to Columbia didn't make a difference, basically.
Yeah. Well, also too, not thinking about like, I'm not going to go work for that person because they're too small. I need to
Hmm.
go work for some big.
Oh yeah, you take
fashion
what you can get.
something.
So it was like my time as an intern is you're running around the garment district looking for parts. Somebody needs a button, someone needs a trim. You need to like go to all the different shops and try to find it. And years later, when I had my own team of interns, a lot of the ways that interns hated doing stuff like that, but how you assess if someone's actually capable is if they can pull that stuff off. You know, are they
Mm,
detail oriented? Are they able to find you that random trim? Do they have a good attitude? Like those are the people
mm,
you end up hiring who can actually do the super simple basic stuff. If you can't do that well, then like
mm,
you're not going to be able to do the next thing
mm-hmm,
well. So
mm-hmm.
yeah.
So
Uh,
what happened after that role? So you were there a couple
yeah.
years.
I was there a couple years and then one day I went to so I had friends in the fashion industry. We're all kind of junior starting out, but I had a friend who was a journalist at Women's Wear Daily and she invited me to a fashion show. And I think it was this brand called Travada, which was kind of popular at the time. They'd won like a CFDA Emerging Designer Award. So I went to the show, and at the show, I met Alexander Wang,
Oh
who
my
at the
God.
time was just starting. And my friend had written like one of the first pieces on him in women's wear. And so she introduced me, and he was like gaining traction. And he was like, "Oh, I'm looking to hire someone to help me grow my accessories business." And so I basically met him at a party and he got my info. And then I went in and I interviewed. And I remember they were like, this was before they moved offices. It was very crammed. And I was literally sitting on a sofa in a room because there was nowhere else to sit. And it was like me on one side, either his brother or sister on the other who helped him run the business, and him, like literally like this doing the
Like
interview.
lined up in the same
Yeah.
couch.
And on a couch in like a really, really messy room. But yeah, I got hired. And so that was a really cool experience.
Mm.
So I got hired to run the production and development of his handbag line, which he was starting out. And then a couple years later, I took over and helped launch his footwear line, which he was also then got off the ground. And I was there for around 3 years, learned so much, worked with such
Mm.
talented people. Many of the people I worked with there are still some of my best friends today.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was like a really formative time in my life. I was in my mid late 20s. It was kind of, I feel like it must have been what Marc Jacobs in the heyday was like in the 90s. It's just
Mm.
like Alex was blowing up. We were on this train and it was just a rocket ship. It was just a really, really cool experience. And there were
Mm.
these crazy after parties for fashion shows. I remember like when he rented out a gas station in meatpacking, like they
Oh
drained
my
the
God.
tanks. I think it was Lil Kim or somebody performed, or maybe it was Courtney Love. And then they filled the gas station convenience store with like free stuff. It was just a very fun time in my life. And we worked
Mm.
our butts off. So,
Mm.
yeah.
What do you think were some of the important lessons that you gained from that experience that you still use today?
Yeah, well, I would say there was definitely like just literal actual job skills, right?
Mm.
So from that experience, learned how the entire design, development, and production process worked, which I would have
Mm.
never known before. I was working with factories in China, in Italy, like on the
Mm.
whole end-to-end cycle. He hired some amazing designers from Europe. And so like
Mm.
they moved to New York to take this job. And I got to like watch these really senior people and learn from how they created product. So I feel like there was that. And there are a lot of things I learned from how to run and manage a company. So I would say I had a mixed experience there. I had a bad situation with one of my bosses, and then I had a really great situation with one of my bosses. And it
Mm.
was this second boss who kind of like I talked about having that high school teacher who really like inspired me and made me think I could do big things. Well, this boss made me think I was like capable of really big things. And I learned a ton from him in general. His name is Gabriel. So yeah, so that was a great experience. And then they were a family business, and I am in a family business now. So I feel like there's a lot of things I took away from that experience on both what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do. And I remember being on the employee side for so long. Often the girls and I would sit around and we'd have conversations like, nobody's thinking about my career path, or like they don't care about us, blah, 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 blah,
Mm.
blah. And now that I've been on the other side for so many years, I realize when you're running a business, you're just trying to keep your head above water. If you're not
Mm.
talking to an employee about their career path, it's not necessarily because you don't care. It could just be that someone needs to be the squeaky wheel and speak up. But
Mm.
I will say, I work with my brother, and he spent many years at Google. So he is very much into performance reviews and like employee goal setting and all this stuff. So I feel like we
Mm.
definitely took a lot from his experience and my experience in terms of trying to shape things and how we run our business now. So,
Mm. So you were there for 3 years. Is
mhm.
that the point that you moved over to the family business once you
Yeah.
left your?
So when I made a decision, I was like, I think I want to move home. So home is Dallas. So I spent over a dozen years on the East Coast, but I decided, I told myself I want to do it before I'm 30. And I think I did it when I was 30. And I moved home.
Goal driven,
And
a goal driven woman.
yeah, and I started over at
Mhm.
home. So here I
Wow.
am, and it's been
No
many
subway,
years.
no subway
Yeah.
here.
No
No.
subway here. Oh yeah, the first year was rough. I was like, I eventually moved to the design district and I lived in a high rise for a little while, so I got to pretend I was in the city again. But yeah, that first year was rough.
So your family had had this business, I think, or you said, I think I
Mhm.
remember in another conversation with you, not on the
Yep.
podcast, that you said, I think your dad had started it.
Yeah. So my dad has been in OEM manufacturing for a long time. And that means basically you make product for other people,
Mhm.
like a contract manufacturer in Asia.
How did your dad get into that work?
This is a long story.
No,
So,
yeah.
sure, my dad came to the United States from Taiwan in the 1970s.
Hmm.
So that's when he immigrated. And he was working for, I don't know if it was like an import export company or something in Taiwan. They used to sell stuff to Dillard's. And so
Ooh.
I don't remember who at Dillard's it was, but he worked with them. And Dillard's actually recruited him and sponsored him to come to the US. And so he became a buyer and he lived in, is it Little Rock? I mean, he was all around wherever their regional, the hubs are, but he lived in Little Rock for a long time. I know he was in Fort Worth, but he basically came to the US to become a buyer, like a junior buyer for Dillard's. And so he's kind of got this merchandising background, but that is what he did. And then he did that for many years. But I will say this is the late 70s, early 80s. It was a different time, and he was a Chinese American immigrant. And he was told pretty much straightforward he would only have a limited ceiling and opportunities because of that. And so he's pretty scrappy. And he was like, well, I'm going to strike out on my own then because I don't
Hmm.
have anything to lose. Although he did, he had a young family at the time. Both my parents were working, but this was obviously like a huge risk. But he took this ceiling that he was confronted with at that
Hmm.
time, which is really rough when you think about it now.
Well, and
He,
to have
yeah,
that mindset though, to not say like, this is it for me, like it
hmm,
is what it is.
yeah,
He had this mentality of like, well, if I
mhm,
can't have that opportunity here, I'm gonna go create my own.
yeah. And so I think companies in the US were already buying from Asia at that time, obviously from Taiwan, and China was really, really nascent, just starting to open up. This is like the early 80s, but I think around 83 or 84, he struck out on his own. And I think he went to China and set up his first factory on his own, which is like crazy. This
How
is
did he know how to do that?
not the well, he's Chinese, so obviously he speaks the language. But I think he knew some people that had maybe done this, and so he just flew out there. But it was the wild, wild west, is what he tells us at that time. And the country was literally just starting to open. It's not the manufacturing powerhouse that it is today with like
Mm.
that kind of skill. And it sounds like there were some crazy things that happened. A lot of times, like they'd order a whole container of product that was glued together, and then they'd open the container in the US and it was like all falling apart. I think the early years were really, really rough, but that's kind of how he got into the business.
When
Yeah.
he struck out on his own is when he
Mm.
founded Leatherology.
No, 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 no. That came decades later.
Okay.
So this was just manufacturing
Got
business.
it. Got
And
it.
he did import export sales on the US side just for several decades.
Got
Mhm.
it. Okay, so your dad started it.
Mhm.
You went off on your own to join the family. You came back to Dallas.
Yep.
You joined the business. At that point,
Mhm.
it was Leatherology or
Yeah, so we actually have a couple of different business lines. We also have a business called the Cover Store that makes outdoor
okay.
furniture covers.
Oh, cool.
Check it out online. Its product's great. I do a lot of custom stuff too. So that actually started first. So they had kind of started and dabbled in e-commerce. And then a couple of years later, he threw up a site called Leatherology. And his idea was to take what you would call odd lot leathers. If you're a tannery is the name of the place that it's like a fabric mill, but it's for leather. So it's the place that you buy leather from. They process the leather and turn it into something beautiful. So tanneries often have offcuts. Let's say a client wanted 1,000 square feet, but you unintentionally produced whatever 1,100. You have like a little bit of extra, so you're trying to get rid of it. So his idea was to buy like basically random leather and cut it into specific
Mm.
styles and then sell it at the site. So you would have high quality leather that you got for a low price that you could then like sell for a certain way. My dad is many things. He's very, very smart. He had a business partner also named David. They were doing this together. They are very smart. I would say they do not have a fashion eye, and they are not designers. So when I joined, which was about when the business was 2 or 3 years old, it was night and day from where we are today. So I spent the first several years rebranding, recreating the business model instead of doing odd lots, shifting us to finding really high quality leather that we could reorder
Mm,
in core colorways, expanding colors from there. So just a very, very different business model.
sure.
And then trying to like build out collections of items, not like selling a random wallet here and a random pouch here, but rather like designing into it and building out our personalization options. So it's a very different business than it is today. I'm very grateful I had this incredible foundation, but I like to think I put my mark on it and really helped grow it. And then my brother joined a few years after I did, and we work really closely together. I'm the product person, I do all the design, all the development, and he's our marketing person. That's what his background was. He worked in advertising at Google. So that's kind of like we worked together. And we have this incredible team also. So I've been really lucky. We have some employees who have been with us for a really long time who have helped grow the business in just incredible ways. So yeah, it's just been a group effort.
Ooh, I love that. Well, and so I assume your dad doesn't work in the business anymore.
He's involved on the factory side, but not the day to
Got
day
got
on
it.
the US.
How's it been working with your brother?
It's been a lot of fun. So we are siblings. I will say we are very, very close, and we have been even before we started working
Sure.
together. But we're siblings. There are moments when we don't get along at all. So I
That
would
makes
say,
sense. That makes sense. I have three sisters.
okay, there you go. I would say we have very common goals and values,
Sure.
and where we disagree is sometimes on how to get there to the end.
Mm.
But
And
in
that's
general,
good. And that's
yeah,
good. Conflict is good because it helps bring better outcomes for sure. I mean, sure, it doesn't feel good.
yes. But we're just really different people with really different styles. I would say on balance, I've been very fortunate to have
Mm.
him in my life that we get to work together. I feel like someone always has my back and we have similar goals at the end of the day. But, it's your sibling. So the day to day can have its challenges.
Hmm. Yeah, I always admire companies who have a husband and wife working together.
Uh
I'm
huh.
like, oh man, that's a lot of
Oh
time
no, my
together.
husband has made clear, like that is a non-starter. We cannot pull that off successfully. So,
No, we need our own
yeah.
space. Same. Well, I just think it's really cool. So the other day I was like on TikTok and one of this like really big influencer posted about her agenda and it was like a leatherology
Oh,
agenda.
really? Okay,
I almost sent it to you. I
cool.
need to
Oh,
send it to you.
yeah.
And I always get hit with the ads on the leatherology, like the bag, the makeup bag. And I'm like,
Oh, the
oh,
train case. Yes.
yes. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I totally want that. That's so cool. And
Uh-huh.
so I feel like you guys have done such a special job in making it very like an elevated, like
Thank
something
you.
people want,
Thank you.
and that's really cool. What do you think you're the most proud of from having built it
Yeah.
to what it is today?
So I talk about our business sometimes as building the house you want to live in, not the
Mm,
house you want to flip. So
mm,
when you do that, I feel like you make very different decisions
mm,
and day to day, like what you should do or what you shouldn't do. So I feel like we've built this business that we're really proud of. I feel like we run a very ethical,
mm,
just like well-meaning company. Obviously, we are
mm,
still a company. We try to do things the right way. And when I say right way, I mean both we never cut corners on product, and that's
mm,
never the intention. Like, I want to sell you and offer you something incredible value that's well
mm,
made, where you might see an ad, but then be surprised that the product's even nicer in person
mm,
than what you thought. Versus, I've bought random stuff on like Instagram where there was some ad, it looked incredible, and then I get it, and I'm like, ooh, I fell victim to,
the
someone
marketing.
selling, yeah, the
Yeah.
marketing and someone selling XYZ. So I would say that that's always fundamentally really high quality product. And this is in both businesses that we run as well.
Mm,
And then I think the company and the people, I
mm,
want to build this house that people are excited to come in, they feel proud to be part
mm,
of, and they feel like we're selling something really good to people. So we're
mm,
also trying to take care of our customers, we're trying to take care of our employees, and I'm trying to provide something really high quality and a
mm.
website experience that hopefully continues to improve because we're e-commerce only. So that's our store, that's our shop window, the
Sure.
experience you have online.
I love that. And I feel like there's also too a shift happening, Ray, where people are more intentional shoppers. And so like
Mhm,
where people want to support businesses that really care. Same, I've ordered from somewhere and it's like a bad quality. But when I purchase now, I really want to know the story. I want to know
mhm,
who's behind the brand, or I want to know that the brand has values.
mhm,
And I'd rather spend my money on a leatherology trinket than like some random big brand that doesn't care
mhm.
about my dollars. It's much more meaningful. Have you seen that in the trend that you observe as a business owner?
I mean, it's hard for me to know what is going on in the customer's head,
Sure.
right? As
Sure.
they're evaluating and thinking. But I think in this day and age, information is so easily accessible and it's at your fingertips. So the consumer is smarter because they have so much more that they can learn
Mhm.
and glean and pick from. And I would say, just like I read a lot about retail in general and business
Sure.
trends, I think
Yeah.
consumers do care, or the younger consumer definitely
Yes.
cares more
100%.
about where the product is
100%.
from. Is it well made? Is it ethical? All of those things. I feel like this is actually something we could do a much better job at because we actually do all these things, but we don't talk about them a lot on the site or
Ooh.
enough
Yeah.
because it's one of 100 things that you have to be working on at a time.
Mhm.
So I feel like there's
Mhm.
definitely a content opportunity for us there.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Mhm.
For sure. Yeah. Because even
Mhm.
as you're talking about it and the passion you have for it, I'm like, oh, that's really cool that Ray
Mhm.
cares so much about the
Mhm.
product and the people. And then also, too, there must be some pride, too, that you are generating income and employing people. That's like a big impact, too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very, very proud of it. It's also something that is the single biggest burden,
Sure.
right?
I hear you.
Because what I do and our success doesn't just affect me, it affects everyone that works for us. And so that's kind of like a burden that we carry. And
Of
like
course.
something, it's like as a business owner, you have the upside of being a business owner, but you also have this thing that, like, for us at least,
Responsibility.
a responsibility. It's a heavy responsibility that, you know, we want to do right by as well.
Yeah.
So, mhm.
How do you think about it so that you can sleep at night? I think it would like keep me up at night, right?
Mhm.
What do you do to keep yourself from being like an anxious mess about it?
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, I will say I do bring work home, right?
sure,
And
sure,
I think
sure,
when you vacations are very difficult because I almost never shut down completely. Because if there is an emergency or something that happens, I want to be available. I don't take Thanksgiving week off. I haven't for almost 15 years because it's Black Friday and I want to
sure.
be around if we've got to go in the warehouse and do something. So I think it's hard, but I also think each person has to decide what's really important to them.
Mm,
And I have two young children, and they are the light of my life. And I
mm,
would say, if I take a step back and put everything in perspective, at the end of the day, it's family. That's what's most important, right?
mm,
And that's why not only myself, but everyone, most people who work with us, it's like they have this whole outside life. And so we try to keep that balance of, I'm not saving the world. I'm trying to make the world a better place, but also we're trying to make the world a more beautiful, joyful place to help you feel happy. But at the same time, yeah, we're not necessarily saving lives, so to speak. It's
I
just
hear
in
you.
terms of the gravity of
I hear
what
you.
we're
Yeah,
doing.
I hear
Yeah.
you. Yeah,
Mhm.
just so keeping that in perspective to
Mhm.
kind of ease some of that
Yeah.
anxiety or worry. Well, so I started this podcast, Ray, because I wanted to motivate people who maybe were at the place you were at the World Bank,
Mhm.
where not feeling fully fulfilled, not trying to figure out
Mhm.
what do they really want out of a career. And what would you say to someone listening who's
Sure.
not feeling completely fulfilled or happy and doesn't know what
So
could be
for a
next?
for a long time, I was the person who looked to my career for meaning in my life. And that's why I went on this like long journey of many years trying all these different things because I wanted to derive all of my satisfaction and like from work. I wanted to be fulfilled by work. So I would say
Mm,
the first question you should ask yourself is that what you want for yourself? Is work so important to you that you want that to be the thing that defines you or makes you happy? Or is it your family life? Joy is to be had in so many different ways. And so for some
mm,
people, you work so that you can have a life outside of work. I am somebody who's always going to need both,
mm,
right? So it's not one or the other. I want to be stimulated in multiple ways. So
sure.
figure that out. But if you are somebody who really wants work to be a meaningful part of your life and you are thinking about doing something else, what I would say is the timing is never going to be right.
Mm,
It is very, very normal to feel scared. And at some point, you just kind of have to make the jump if that's what you want to do. And
mm,
I remember thinking, oh, I can't do this because I might fail, because I might fail. If you fail, pick yourself back up and you just
mm,
start over. Like
mm,
I tried the pastry thing, that wasn't it. And there wasn't a lot of failure to be had there because I was so young. But I'm just
sure.
saying, you
Yeah.
may not make the right decision. And so if you wait for the timing to be perfect, you're never going to feel comfortable to jump.
Mm.
And also, sometimes ignorance is bliss. If I knew what I knew now, I don't think I would make those decisions. But being 24, 25, I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to throw it all out the window and
Sure.
start over
Sure.
because I didn't know any better. So,
Yeah. Thank you. Where can people find more about Leatherology and your second company? And where
Sure.
can people learn more and buy some of your products?
Absolutely. So our website is www.leatherology.com. That's Leatherology. And we're on Shopify. If you're in that ecosystem, it makes checking out all those things really easy. You can sign up for a mailing list to be the first to hear about stuff. We're also pretty active on Instagram. So the handle is at Leatherology, and you can follow along for like our latest releases, all the fun things we have coming up. I don't know when this is going to air, but we are heading into our holiday season and we have some really cool things
Ah,
I'm excited to be
so
sharing.
exciting.
Yeah, so we have some really beautiful gift sets that we just launched.
Ooh.
I am all about gift ready. Every holiday, I think about what am I going to get as employee gifts. And
Mm.
so what we have now is these beautiful gift sets that come with like a green double face satin ribbon and free personalization and a leather tag. So if you get the items inside, personalized, the tag will also have
Oh,
the
that is
initials on it.
so
So it's like
cool.
it's done for you.
Oh, that's
And then we are also just launching AI driven and custom artwork, which is like a
ooh.
total game changer. Super excited about it. But basically, you can go online on an individual item, and there's a little AI prompt that will help you create an image if you'd like. So you can say, like, I want to see a girl on a pony holding flowers, and it'll create a little image. And then you can choose to apply that to the item, and we will imprint it using a metal die. And so we will take that artwork and we will cut out a metal die and
Oh
then
my
like
God.
make that as a debug. And then we also have the upload version, same thing. So you can upload a logo or you can take a picture of your kid's artwork and
Oh, that's
then
sweet.
you can upload it and then we will like turn it into a stamp and stamp it.
Oh my
So just
gosh.
this like next level of personalization that I don't see anyone else doing in the leather goods space.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah. So super, super excited about
That's
that.
so cool. Yeah, it'll definitely air here pretty soon. So people
Okay.
have chance to listen to and take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Ray, thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.